2 months ago, I, 45 female, woke up to a zero balance in my bank account. Now, 2 months on, I still can't convince myself it's not my husband's fault or that forgiveness is possible. This was a shared bank account my husband and I had opened, and it's where he receives his paychecks, and our rent, groceries, gas, credit card payments, etc. come out of this account. We're not rich. I make $14 an hour, working 28 hours a week, and he makes $18 an hour full-time. We have 2 kids, but only our younger daughter, pre-tween, is his biologically. My older daughter, tween's father is my ex. We broke up due to his constant cheating. Never married. This all started because my husband got a real estate license in hopes of making extra money, despite no real business until summer. He became concerned about how real estate agents have to be trusted with sensitive information and was afraid it would work against him if he were being sued by creditors. I admit that to soften the standard of living disparity between my ex and me, we took out more credit cards than we should have, for my daughter's sake. We got collection calls, and I told them to tell them to get a life. I also suggested bankruptcy, but he said that they would all come to collect the money anyway. One creditor was particularly aggressive and found us after we moved, and my husband said his public license meant they'd always find him. He called them and negotiated it down to $700, which we could take the hit for. My husband said he'd take care of it, and they agreed to write it off, and then pay it with an e-check. For like a few days, everything seemed all right. Then I woke up and found out they drained the entire account for $4,000. I broke down crying. My husband came in, and instead of doing something, anything, he just clutched his chest, motioned helplessly, and made some gasp. He went mute and just sat there while I was there thinking about how we didn't even have enough credit to get our groceries for the week, and that I'd have to use my child support from my ex to feed my kids and my husband. I grabbed our kids and drove to my ex's house because I had nowhere else to go. Despite being a cheater, he didn't want his daughter to starve or to watch her sister starve, so he let us stay there. My husband tried calling me. He acted possessed when I went to get more stuff. I heard him screaming at the top of his lungs that they were breaking up families. He left reviews saying that this company took away everything he had and ruined his family. My ex said everybody knows debt collectors would do this, and my husband should have listened to me. It's been 2 months and I'm finding my own place. My husband no longer does anything with his real estate license and barely kept his job because he'd be distracted. Now with all of our interactions, he's filled with resentment. And yesterday we got into a blowout fight where I said if he had ignored the collectors, none of this would have happened, and I'm ready to move past it. Am I the idiot? So, the real story is that you racked up a bunch of credit cards you couldn't pay for so that your oldest daughter wouldn't like living at your ex's house more than yours. You ran up credit card debt because you were having a lifestyle competition. You lack marketability skills, don't work full-time, and are financially illiterate. You have no emergency food supplies to get by for a week or two, so you moved in with a cheating ex-lover and abandoned your husband. Lady, you ran up all the debt. You tried to dodge it and told your husband to dodge it. Your debt was negatively impacting your husband's career, yet you seem to believe that he's the idiot in your story? You are the idiot 100%. Debt doesn't just vanish. Do you really think you can just move to a new address and all of your credit card debt goes away because you no longer see the bills? It's not just free money. It's wild that you're blaming your husband for trying to pay off your debt as the cause for this. Your husband was trying to do the right thing and improve your sorry life. He deserves better than you. Yep, I could not believe the whole "I told him to tell them to get a life" bit. I heard the record scratch sound in my head, and I reread that sentence 5 times. I was like, how is an actually functioning adult this stupid? Does she really think that she can just tell the credit card companies that they're not going to pay, and that's it? And the only way they even force you to pay is if you stay on the phone with them. How did she type all of this out without dying of embarrassment? You'd be surprised how many people treat debt like this. I deal with them every day. OP is 45 and makes $14 an hour with a net worth of $4K. She racks up the debt, all because she wouldn't accept that her daughter would live a little less rich than at her dad's house. Not to mention, she went straight to her ex's house. She's a moron and a thief. Running up credit card debt with no intention of repaying it is theft. It may be impossible to prove, but it's still theft. You need a reality check. Girl, this is real life. They want their money. Your husband did the right thing. You did not. I co-parent a preteen boy with my ex. We share 50-50 custody with a specific custody calendar to ensure we both get the same amount of days with our son. Last year, my ex asked if I could give her my Christmas week in exchange for a week in the future because she wanted to go visit her family out of state and could only do it on the days I had my son. I said yes. From then on, she refused to give me my week back. She always had some excuse or wanted to do it when it worked for her. In other words, she scammed me out of my custody time. I said, so be it. Earlier this week, she asked again if she could have our son the week of Christmas. I have him the week of, and she has him the week after, again to visit family. I said, of course, but you need to give me 2 weeks in return, one from last year and one for this year. And I get those 2 weeks before you get extra time, so you can't screw me over again. One of those weeks can be the week of Thanksgiving, when you have him. She refused and tried gaslighting me by saying she gave me the week back I gave up last year, LOL. I told her there was no room to negotiate, take it or leave it. The next day, her boyfriend called me. He said he would propose this Thanksgiving, which is why my ex doesn't want to give up Thanksgiving. They both wanted to travel to see his family for Christmas and New Year's Eve and celebrate their engagement. That's why I can't have her Thanksgiving time and why she needs my Christmas week. I told him my custody arrangement was none of his business, and I don't want to have to explain crap to him. I'm not open to any custody changes anymore. You can tell my son's mom that you mess around and we'll find out. Now he's trying to walk back everything he said because he knows he screwed up by inserting himself into this matter. Of course, he said he was trying to help out. Not the idiot. Her boyfriend has messed up big time by sticking his beak in. If she refuses to give you back the time you're owed, you're within your rights to refuse any further custody changes. My brother has exactly the same issue with his ex and his 2 boys. She expects him to be flexible for her, but not vice versa. Her boyfriend probably tried to help and may not even have been aware of her screwing you over before. She may have told him that she already had been even with you with the custody time, so I wouldn't be mad at him. It's a good thing that he wants the kids involved instead of pushing the kid out of their life to start a new family. I'd appreciate that. They both know about Thanksgiving and have planned Christmas to celebrate with family. BS. If he's planning on proposing, he would have been in the picture last year and know exactly what happened and is going on. OP is well within his rights to be angry at someone interfering in custody matters, and he can want to include OP's kid all he wants, but he doesn't get to do it by taking custody time away from OP. There's absolutely no reason the boyfriend has to propose at Thanksgiving. Any day of the year will do just fine. My daughter is a pre-tween. I drove her to school on Monday morning, dropped her off, and then took my son to his classroom, pre-K, separate building. When I returned to my car, my daughter stood by it crying. I was running late for work, so I took her to my mom's. I debated calling the school but assumed they'd called me and decided not to be any later to work. They didn't call me. My daughter was okay. She tripped in class and broke her bottle. She cried and came to find me, but forgot where her brother's class was, so she waited by the car. I was furious when I got to pick up, and no one had said anything. I decided to walk up to my daughter's class to ask what had happened in the morning. When the teacher saw me, she bolted back inside and disappeared. I decided to head to the main office instead. As soon as I got there, the teacher rushed into an explanation of not realizing my daughter was supposed to be in today. Basic guilty crap. I let her ramble and then explained where she was. The principal was called, who essentially told me that it was incredibly dangerous for me not to call her in and to let her staff worry. I think it's unprofessional of them not to call home if a child just disappears. I handed her off to a staff member, so at least one person knew she was there. Anything could have happened to her. She's little and was walking out in front of cars. They've decided we need to have a meeting. I agree. Neither kid has been to school today. I'm probably going to switch their school. I spoke to my brother, a teacher, who said I was in the wrong. Teachers make mistakes. The staff member probably saw me with her, and that's why she didn't tell anyone. I don't feel like I was, but I can see his point of view. Am I the idiot? Edit. I walked my daughter to the door, said hi to the class assistant, and transferred my daughter's hands into hers. My daughter wasn't marked absent the whole day. Honestly, you are the idiot. When I returned to my car, my daughter stood by it crying. I was running late for work, so I just took her to my mom's. I honestly don't get why you'd let her have the day off over that. I don't know why you couldn't just walk her back to class and console her instead of letting her have the entire day off over that. I don't get that. Being 2 minutes later to get her back to class shouldn't be that big of a deal. Your daughter was unattended briefly at the beginning of school. Besides that, she was completely safe. You have a right to be concerned about that brief moment and even speak to the school about it. But everything else after that is just you being dishonest. Not the idiot. Your child should have never been able to leave the classroom, let alone the building. Once you drop your kid off at school, there's a responsibility on the faculty and staff to keep your child safe. Furthermore, it's the school's job to call you if your child isn't present, and you haven't called for exactly this reason. The rest of these folks haven't been in a school in a long time. That being said, you definitely could have called, but this is their colossal mess up. What has me suspicious is the teacher's reaction when she saw you. So what really happened on their end? Something went down, likely showing flaws in their processes if they considered them carefully and they're not telling you. Not the idiot. Switch schools. This school isn't prioritizing your children's safety, and they're covering up issues instead of communicating them. For as long as I've known my wife, her brother, we'll call him Frank, has had mental health issues. He used to go out late at night with his friends, get hardly any sleep, and would randomly have mental breakdowns, leading to him getting fired from more than one job. Finally, about a year ago, Frank got needed help and appeared to be doing better. He got a bipolar diagnosis and was prescribed medication. Frank could function and even hold down a job when he was on his medicine. The problem is, he would stop taking his medicine. He would also drink and smoke heavily on and off his medication, which obviously didn't help matters. Fast forward to a few days ago, and we'd gotten word that Frank may be about to have another meltdown. My wife seemed upset, but I told her that it was his choice to stop taking the medication, and he knew that he needed to stay off alcohol, yet he refused to do so. Personally, I think it shows a lack of character to do so. Frank still lives with mother-in-law, and she allows him to get away with horrible behavior. He doesn't clean his room or the bathroom, is disrespectful, makes noises late at night, etc. I told my wife that the best thing her mom could do for him would be to kick Frank out so that he's forced to take responsibility for himself for once in his life. My wife told me I was being cruel and that her brother would end up homeless if he couldn't live with my mother-in-law. I told her that her mother was weak and didn't want to be a parent, and that if we ever had a child like that, he would be out of our house as soon as he failed college, which Frank also did. My wife told me that I was being unfair and that Frank's illness means that he's going to have to live with her mother for the rest of his life. But I tried to calmly explain to my wife that I know people with bipolar disorder who can live independently and that she's simply making excuses for her screw-up of a brother. Anyway, after I made that remark, my wife slammed the bedroom door shut and didn't come out for several hours. She's also rejected any attempts that I've made to speak with her about the situation. I believe she's in denial, cannot accept her brother's moral failings, and instead has decided to blame me. I want our relationship to be what it used to be, but I simply refuse to play her childish and irrational games. Am I the idiot? Firstly, since he only got his diagnosis of bipolar a year ago, it's pretty clear that Frank failed out of college due to an undiagnosed and therefore untreated mental illness. If your mother-in-law had kicked Frank out of the house then, guess what? He'd still be living with an undiagnosed and therefore untreated mental illness. You clearly don't understand mental health issues. You are the idiot. Agree, and it often takes long, much longer than a year, to find the right treatment regimen. This includes medication and other lifestyle changes. It's not a linear process, and it's even more complicated if the first med he tried gave him bad side effects, and/or if his insurance decided to no longer cover it. Why is your opinion about her brother important? Is he affecting you somehow? And why is it important to you that your wife agrees with you about this? This is what I was wondering as well. My instinct is that he's terrified his wife will eventually expect him to accept her brother coming to live with them. So he's being extreme about this to make sure he doesn't seem like a hypocrite later. So no one can be like, oh, you were fine watching my mom help, but you don't want to. Because he can then point out that he's been telling everyone not to help all along. To be honest, I wouldn't either. My stepfather had issues, and we needed to care for him. It was like babysitting an oversized baby. And when I was 9 and he started drinking, I hated it. Now, imagine being responsible for a full-grown adult indefinitely that won't do anything for themselves. I hope OP's wife doesn't push for caring after the brother if they have kids too. The brother may need help, and he didn't choose to have BD, but he needs professional help. My teenage brother came to visit me along with our dad. My mom joined a couple of days later, and altogether they stayed for about a week. Brother's autistic and prefers to eat fried chicken for every meal. He will have some rice and some curry sometimes too, but 85% of his meals are fried chicken. I was making prawn pasta from scratch for my dad, and my brother asked if I could make him some because he liked the look of it, so I did. I have frozen chicken tenders in the freezer, so if he hates it, I could have made those quickly for what it's worth. My mom hates prawns, so they don't eat them at home. She's decided, though, that means nobody in our family likes prawns. Anyway, when she arrived, my brother started raving about the pasta I made for them, and as soon as he mentioned that it had prawns, my mom lost it. She started yelling at me, saying I was inconsiderate of my brother's needs and that I should have just made him a fried chicken burger instead of trying to force him out of his comfort zone. It's been weeks, and she's still mad at me over it, even more so today, because apparently little bro asked her to get the recipe from me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If your brother asked to eat some of the food, ate it, and liked it, there's no problem. You had a backup option for his favorite meal if and when he didn't like what you cooked. Sounds like your mother was mad you made a food your brother enjoyed and she doesn't, so she doesn't want to have to cook it for him. I bet there are other foods she's kept from your brother because she doesn't like those foods. I have a feeling that your brother is as tired of his monotonous diet as you are. Your mom might be using his condition as an excuse to avoid much effort to cook for him. Your mom, dad too, where is he in all of this? Is doing your brother a disservice by not exposing him to more foods and then deciding certain foods are the only ones he can eat? Good job widening his food palette.